Good morning. Happy Sunday. Hope you have a great day today. Thanks for coming to worship with us. Hope you enjoy. Your blood speaks a better word than all the empty claims heard upon this earth. Righteousness for me, it stands in my defense.
Hey everyone, Dustin here. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us this week. We are going to be in our second week of our Vows series. That's our relationship series. I think the series is great for a lot of reasons. It's geared towards people who are married and people who maybe one day want to be married. So if you're not dating anyone but want to date, if you're not engaged and want to get engaged, and if you're engaged and you want to get married, or if you're married a short while or a long while, however you want to look at that. So pretty much it's for anyone who wants to get married or is married, whether you've been married a short time or a long time. Anyways, this whole thing is about renewing or realigning our paths in marriage and our relationships. By nature, we pursue what we don't have. When I first met my wife, we were on a blind date. So a couple of my friends were dating a couple of her friends, and they decided we ought to meet. Made sense, right? So I remember I had my 94 Eddie Bauer Edition Explorer, and I drove down to the pit of the college. That's the parking lot, and you had to drive down into it. And it was kind of between the guys' dorms and the girls' dorms. So I pulled down there, and my friend met me there. And then here comes now his wife and my future wife to the car to meet us. And I opened the door for her, and she says hi. You know, great start to a date. You know, you at least acknowledge one another. And then we go out to eat, and I remember we went out as a large group. It wasn't just us three friends. There were some other friends who were there. And so I sat down. We go to sit down at the table, and I find a seat with another seat right beside me, and it made sense. All of our friends were right there. So I sat down. And she went down and sat like at the opposite end of the universe, opposite end of the table from me. Okay. Well, a little time goes by. We get done eating. We go bowling. So we go bowling, and I think she maybe said 1-2 words to me while we were at the bowling alley. I'm like, well, this date's going great. And I take them back to the pit, drop everyone off. And a little bit later, I realized I thought this girl was cute. Don't know much about her personality, but I thought she was cute. Worth spending some more time on. See, I didn't have her, but I wanted to get to know her more. So I invited her out to something else. So my parents, I have great parents, and they, at the time, they decided Easter's here. All of these kids who are at this college who didn't get to go home need somewhere to go. So they said, hey, all of your friends who are interested, we're going to take care of their meals. So I invited all of my friends, including her, to come have Easter dinner with us. She sits down next to me this time. Made it a little bit further. She sits down next to me, and I got like 5 words out of her. I went from like 3 words on the first date to 5 words on the second date. I think I got hi, or maybe it's 6 words. How was your church service? And I might have got a bye. So 7 words. So that's about where that date ended. I don't guess that was really a date. That was time we spent together. And then the third date, or the third time we were together, was a church activity. I remember we went out to my friend Robert's house, and we did a big like bonfire, and we were doing some capture the flag stuff. It was a big college event. And we're all sitting down at this fire pit, large group of people. And all of a sudden, everyone gets up and leaves me and her there. And a couple hours later, we shared a lot. We talked a lot. And from there, it really blossomed. I pursued her really hard. She told me no along the way. First time I asked her to go out to date, she's like, no. even though we continued to date. But to be steady was a no, and then eventually I got a yes. First time I went to kiss her, I got shut down. Luckily, the first time I asked her to marry me, though, I got a yes, because I don't know that I would have gone back for a second one on that one. That would have been a pretty big punch to the gut. But anyways, I pursued my wife very hard. I didn't have her, I wanted her, and I went after her. I'm pretty sure that if you are married, if you've had a successful relationship, you all probably have a pretty similar story to this. Just tonight, we were at a birthday party, and we were talking about talking on the phone. When we were dating, and she was in Indiana, and I was in Missouri for a short time, we talked on the phone a lot. Do you remember talking to someone so long, like connected to a landline? Yeah, teenagers, young people, there was this thing that had a cord to it. Crazy, right? But you're sitting there and you're talking on the phone, and then you eventually run out of words to say, and you're just sitting there listening to each other breathe because you want to be or hear someone so bad. Yeah, well, I was there. We were there when we were dating. Now I can't stand to talk on the phone. We can be apart from each other for a month. It's like, hi, I love you, kids, good, bye. And that's the extent of it. But whether you blew your whole savings on a ring at one point, or a concert, or you drove all night long to go see someone, we all should have a story of pursuing someone. And I'm sure my wife probably has a story in her mind of how she pursued me in some way. Although, let's just be honest, dating, I did most of the pursuing. It's just the way it was. But then it seems every marriage or every relationship, and I say seems, and it might not be every relationship. Maybe you have that one relationship that has never lost the fire. But many relationships lose that fire along the way. What happened? Whose fault is it? Is it your fault? Is it your spouse's fault? I don't want to assign blame, but it's your fault. Or at least partly your fault, because you made decisions along the way to prioritize other things and to not pursue your significant other, your wife, your husband, in the way that you should be. So let's talk about the vows. So first week is I promise that God will be my first priority and my spouse will be my second. So that was the first vow that we spent a lot of time on last week, or that was the primary vow that we focused on last week. And through that vow sets up the rest of these. So God is my first priority and my spouse is my second. And the vow that we're going to be focusing on tonight is I promise to always pursue my two. Say it one more time. I always promise, or let me change that. I promise to always pursue my two. So God's your one, your spouse is your two. If you keep those priorities aligned, you will always be pursuing your one because that's your first priority. But you're also promising that I will pursue my two. A great story about pursuit in the Bible is Jacob and Rachel. Jacob met Rachel and he wanted her. He pursued her. So Rachel's father said, listen, I need you to work for me for 7 years. And in 7 years, I will give you my daughter. Well, he did that. Could you imagine you go to your father-in-law or your future father-in-law and you're like, I'd like to marry your daughter. He's like, okay, well, I want you to work on my farm for 7 years and then I'll say yes. Well, Jacob did that. In his 7 years, after his commitment was fulfilled, he married the daughter. But not the daughter you'd expect. You see, he gave Jacob Leah, which is Rachel's sister. Well, Jacob wasn't doing all this work. He wasn't pursuing Leah. He was pursuing Rachel. Let me just give you a little insight into Rachel and Leah. Rachel was described as having a lovely figure and was beautiful. Leah's description was she had weak eyes. She had weak eyes. If that's the best description you can give for someone, I'm sure she was lovely. Anyways, think about that. He went after the lovely figure, beautiful woman, and got weak eyes. So Jacob went back to Rachel and Leah's dad, and he's just like, hey, we had this agreement for Rachel. And the dad came back to him and said, it's not customary to marry off the younger daughter ahead of the older daughter. But I'll go ahead and give you my younger daughter. I'll go ahead and give you Rachel as well if you'll continue to work for me for 7 more years. So Jacob did it. 14 years of work for the woman he loved, for the woman he pursued. 14 years to get Rachel. Now think about that. For 7 years, he didn't have her at all. Leah got cheated. Then he got Rachel and had to continue working 7 more years to pay that off. If that's not pursuit, I don't know what is. He was working for 7 years for something he already had at this point. He had Rachel now, but he continued to work. Remember, I promise to always pursue my two. I promise to always pursue my two. Are you not married? Dating? Don't take the person that you're pursuing, whether dating, not married, whatever, for granted. If someone is being lazy in their pursuit while dating, how do you think they're going to be once you're married? Normally, whatever's happening in the way they're pursuing you when you're dating is going to go down once you're married. Let's just be honest. That's the way it works. So if they're being lazy in the pursuit, they're going to be lazy once they've caught you. So don't be taken for granted. And don't take for granted the person you're pursuing. You remind yourself of this. You are worth pursuing. You're not worth a weak, lazy, lame pursuit. No one is worth that. You're not worth that. Don't accept it. Don't be okay with it. Don't make excuses for the person pursuing you because you think you can't do better. Don't accept a weak pursuit. So I want to close the gap a little bit here between intentions and actions. Between intentions and actions. Most of us have good intentions. We want to feel love. We want to give love. But it's easy for us to have excuses. I'm tired. I don't have time. There's not enough time in the day to get my work done and all my other stuff done and give you all the attention I need to give you. It's really easy to make that excuse. But it's just that, it's an excuse. It's not okay. So, the first point I want to tackle tonight, and here I'm going to give you 3 really good ways to pursue your two in everyday life. So the first point is when you think something good, say it. So let's read Hebrews 3:13 together real fast. But encourage each other daily while it is still called today, so that none of you is hardened by sin's deception. So that's again Hebrews 3:13. So live by those words. Live by the words, encourage each other daily. Thank you. You're gorgeous. I love you. Something I do to my wife and I say to my wife, and it might seem corny. You can laugh at it if you want, and I don't care. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm trying to impress my wife, who's somewhere else in this house right now. I ask her to marry me over and over and over again. Why, you ask? Because I'm already married to her. Because I want her to know that I believe she would be worth marrying all over again, even if we weren't. I love her so much. I want her to know that I would not change my mind. I would not change anything about it. I love her. Will you marry me? Corny. We're already married. Thank the Lord we don't have to pay for another wedding, even though I didn't really have to pay for the first one. But that would be horrible. So here's some things that you can do. Guys, I'm going to start with you. So remember, when you think something good, say it. So what should you say? Pursue her with words of affection. I'll say it one more time. Pursue her with words of affection. Now, when I say affection, I'm not saying go with a end goal in mind. Pursue her with some non-sexual affection. Let's just be honest there. Guys have this way of making everything and anything sexual. There is a time and a place for that, but not all the time. I'm saying when you pursue her verbally, I love you because you work so hard for this family. I love you because you cook amazing meals. I love you because you're a great mother. Whatever she's great at, whatever she does, tell her how you love her. I know that is important. I know last night my wife and I did our Valentine's Day night, and we just kind of talked for a minute, and I made sure she knew that I loved her for the way that she pursues me as her husband. And I am not a romantic person. I'm just going to be honest with you. This message is something I need. I need this because I honestly have my pinky toe is the romantic bone in my body. It's my dad's fault. I'm blaming my dad. No, I'm just not a real romantic person. And so I have to consciously make those decisions. And going through this helps me in remembering that I have to consciously make those decisions. Next, women, pursue your man with words of affirmation. So pursue him with words of affirmation. Ladies, I'm just going to be honest with you. He is becoming what you see in him. He's becoming what you see in him. Don't tell him what he's not. Don't tear your man down. That is not your job. Don't tell him all the time why you're disappointed in him. Men do not succeed that way. We want to be heroes in our wife's eyes. Let's just be honest. Even when we probably not, we want to be. We like that little, air pressure pumping our chests up so we can just, my wife thinks I'm great. That's how we're built. Build him up spiritually. You want a man that leads the home spiritually? Build him up and encourage him when he does. He's sitting at dinner and your husband doesn't pray very often and he decides to pray. Man, when he's done praying, tell him, hey, I love it when you pray. Tell him you think he's sexy when he prays. Let him know that you find a praying man, a God-seeking man, you find that appealing. You want him to lead that way? I'm telling you, that'll help. I'm going to break this down into a couple simple concepts before we move on to the next point. Men, she wants to know, do you love me today? Women, he wants to know, do you believe in me today? I think that's a really just simple breakdown. Men want to be believed in. The second point, when you think something special, do it. When you think something special, do it. James 4:17 says, "So it is sin to know the good and yet not do it." So I'm going to read that one more time. So it is sin to know the good and yet not do it. If you know it's good to make your spouse a priority, if you know it's good to, I think it'd be great if I took off early and went home and helped my wife out with the kids. If you know that's something that needs to be done, don't just think it. Do it. Maybe you know that your spouse has a packed schedule and doesn't have time to maybe cook dinner. Maybe you need to go pick up the dinner. I'm going to tell you something. Early on in our marriage, is one of the ways my wife pursued me, and she probably doesn't even know how important it was. I was working a lot of hours. I was working pretty much all the time it was light outside, and our lawn was getting out of control. But it was my job. We made the agreement. I took care of the stuff outside the house. She took care of the stuff inside the house. But our lawn was getting out of control, and unless I mowed the lawn in the dark, it wasn't getting done. Plus, when I lived in Missouri, I had horrible allergies. Like, my allergies were insane, to the point where sometimes my migraines would get so bad from my allergies that I would have to lock myself in a dark room and just curl up in the fetal position and pray that God would heal me enough that I could go back and rejoin the world. I hated allergy season. That's one thing I love about living in Arizona, living in Phoenix. I don't have the allergy season like I had in Missouri. And so one day, this happened multiple times, but I remember coming home and the lawn was mowed. And I looked at my wife and I was like, "Who mowed our lawn?" And no sooner did those words come out of my mouth, I remember looking down and seeing a pair of her shoes sitting by the front door with grass stains all over them, and realizing my wife mowed my lawn, our lawn. She knew I was busy, knew I was stressing out about it, and she took care of it for me. Just like there's at times I cook for my wife. I cook for our family. More times than not, I pick up food for my family, but I do cook sometimes. So when you're when you're thinking something special, do it. You guys have been overwhelmed. You've been stressed. Your relationship's been stressed. Work it out with maybe your spouse's employer. Go pre-hire a babysitter. Don't tell the other person. Have a date completely planned. Relieve all the stress off the other person and just go out. Whatever you have to do, whatever you need to do, whatever your marriage needs at that time, don't be scared to do it. Maybe you need a couple nights away and you need to schedule a time for grandparents or in-laws to come into town to help take care of kids, or someone from your church, someone from our church to help you take care of the kids so that you can maybe get some time away. If that's what you need, that's what you need. If he loves golfing, join him. Lord, help me for this next statement. If she loves shopping, join her. I hate shopping. I'm the type of guy, I know what I want. I'll walk into the store, I get it, and I get out. The only exception is Bass Pro. And maybe Lowe's. There I kind of like to wander. But if she likes to shop, join her and don't complain. Those are just some small, simple things you can do to invest and pursue your spouse. Next, the third point. When you want something different, be it. If only she would fill in the blank. If only my husband would fill in the blank. Whatever that blank is, don't worry about saying it. Be the change you want to happen. Don't gripe about what your spouse is not not doing, not being, whatever it is. Don't gripe about it. Continue to grow into who you are supposed to be. And then let them continue to grow into who they are supposed to be. It doesn't happen overnight. They're not going to be who they're going to be at 40 years old at 22. Or at 32 at what they'll be at 50. There's growth that is going to happen. So right now we're going to take a second and we're going to go into what my wife has to say. So I have a question for my wife, and I want her to take a couple minutes to tell you in her own words what pursuit looks like from her perspective. So we're going to join her, and I'll be back with you in a couple minutes.
So what pursuit looks like for Dustin and I is not a lot of big things, but it's a lot of small things. So some of the ways that Dustin pursues me is in the care that he shows for me. So like if I've had a particularly rough week or rough day sometimes, he knows that something that's very stress relieving for me is to go shopping. And it's not really like spending money shopping, it's window shopping and browsing, and he will just give me the opportunity to and say, hey, why don't I keep the kids at home and let you get out by yourself and go just go shopping, just go do whatever you want for a couple of hours. And that's something that he will do for me often so that I can just get away and have some time alone just to recharge and refresh. Also, we still have young kids, and we have the pitter patter of little feet in the middle of the night. Mommy, I had a bad dream, or I can't sleep, or my legs hurt. And typically the next morning he's aware that I've been up and out of bed and whatever, and he will let me sleep in. He'll get up and just make sure the kids are fed and get started on school or whatever that looks like for that particular day, and just have them be real quiet so mommy can get some rest. And so just caring for me and showing me that he loves me and he's going to take care of me. Dustin is a great protector, and that's definitely one of the ways that he pursues me. I would say for the way that I pursue Dustin, one of the things about my husband is that he absolutely loves bread. And several years ago, I started making Hawaiian sweet rolls from scratch, and it's one of his favorite things. And so I probably still don't do that as often as I should, but I try to just take the time to make those, and either with a meal or sometimes just to surprise him with that, because I know it's one of his favorite things, and he loves it. And to come home to the smell of baked bread, it just makes his heart happy, I know. Another thing that I really try to be cognizant of is when we have maybe had a disagreement or just something that we need to talk about, is try to always be cautious of the words I use, and try to always give the benefit of the doubt and show grace, not be accusatory. When we're talking about a subject, it's real easy to say, well, you, or use all these accusatory words. And I really try to be cognizant of that, and just show grace, and also show that I'm really listening to him, because he needs someone to listen. And so that's one of the ways that, or a couple of the ways that I pursue Dustin. And like I said, there's all kinds of other little ways. It's a lot of little ways. It's daily making those choices to show your spouse that you care for them and you love them.
Hey, I'm glad you guys got a chance to hear from my wife, get the flip side of the coin from me. Thanks for coming back. I've just got a couple more minutes, and we will be finished. So I want to talk real fast. I have two statements I'm going to read to you. To get what you've never had, you must do what you've never done. To get what you've never had, you must do what you've never done. If you have never had the relationship that you want, you need to do more. Specifically, if you've never found yourselves together seeking God in prayer, in reading, anything like that, maybe it's time you start. I think that grows the intimacy in marriage and in a relationship more than anything else. I want you to read Revelations 2:3-5 with me. This is a letter to the church at Ephesus in reference to their love for Jesus and his church. So let's read this. I know that you have persevered and endured hardships for the sake of my name, and you have not grown weary, but I have this against you. You have abandoned the love you had at first. Remember then how far you have fallen. Repent and do the works you did at first. So this takes me to my last statement. To get what you have once had, you must do what you once did. Just like this verse is saying, you have abandoned the love you had at first. And then fast forward to the end of the verse. Repent and do the works you did at first. So if you want what you once had, you're going to have to do what you once did. If you once had an amazing relationship with your spouse, you might need to remember what you did. Maybe your communication was better. Maybe you were deep in the Word and deep in prayer with each other. It's probably time to get back to that. As we end, I hope this week you will say this to yourself, will hold yourself to this, will pray this, maybe with your spouse. I promise to always pursue my two. Thank you for joining me this week, and I will see you next time.